convince authorities it's time to ease restrictions. Michael Sullivan reports.
Vietnam has fought and beaten many aggressors in the last 1,000 years or so, the Chinese, the French, and of course the Americans. And it's couched its response to the coronavirus in military terms as well, calling it the Spring Offensive of 2020. If Vietnam and its people are united, Vietnam can win against the pandemic, Deputy Prime Minister Vu Ngoc Tam said earlier this month. If fighting COVID-19 has been a war, then we have won battles, he said, but not the entire war. It's early morning in central Hanoi, and hundreds stand waiting for handouts at one of the so-called rice ATMs, which have sprouted in the country's big cities. Most wait patiently. One even sings as she waits. The delivery system is simple. A plastic pipe sticking out of a makeshift panel pours about 6 pounds of rice into each person's bag. 75-year-old Pham Thi Siem has been waiting for almost 2 hours.
Life is very tough now. I am retired with no pension. My sons and daughter have lost their jobs. I came here to get rice for our next meal, for all of us, my sick grandchildren too.
The rice ATMs are privately funded by local entrepreneurs. The Prime Minister has pledged $2.6 billion in relief for those who need it. Pham's family hasn't seen any of it, but she's not complaining.
The whole country is in this rough time. Not just me. I have to accept reality. It's a pandemic. It's a nationwide threat.
Like many Vietnamese, her life hasn't been easy. During the war with the U.S., she remembers working to keep the Ho Chi Minh Trail clear to allow North Vietnamese troops and resupply trucks through to battle U.S. and allied forces in the south.
I was there from 1968 to 1972. After that, I was sent to Laos and stayed in Laos for the next 7 years. There was a lot of bombing.
She says her generation remembers other hard times, famine even. But this is different, she says. No food, plus the threat of disease. Her biggest complaint, the inequality between the newly rich and the poor.
In the past, everyone was poor. Now there is the poor and the rich. The rich are surely doing better than I am. The rich, they can just stay home and relax and eat because they have cash.
The partial lifting of the lockdown means some of her children might be able to return to work soon. Until then, she'll keep coming for rice until the ATMs stop the service. That's set for April 30th, the date Vietnam celebrates the end of what it calls the American War. For NPR News, I'm Michael Sullivan in Chiang Rai, Thailand.
This is NPR News.
Hi, I'm Kojo Namdi. Every day, WAMU connects you to the region and the world, even when you're stuck at home. We're focused on uncovering all the ways the coronavirus pandemic is affecting the lives of Washingtonians. And we provide you with a platform to ask your pressing questions and to share what's on your mind. Stay connected with WAMU. Listen every day on air or online at WAMU.org.
Don't forget to join us tonight for the national conversation with All Things Considered. NPR reporters and expert guests answer your questions on the coronavirus pandemic and share stories of how people from around the country are coping in the new reality. Listen tonight from 10 to 11 here on WAMU.
It's It's All Things Considered from NPR News. I'm Ari Shapiro.
And I'm Mary Louise Kelly. Next, our musical chain of gratitude continues with the band Bernice.
Any alternate story to the formula that we are so attached to of the younger the better that you can get success, it's like a tonic to hear.
Play it forward after the news.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Louise Schiavone. The nation's leading infectious disease expert, Dr. Anthony Fauci, says there's positive news from international trials of a drug called remdesivir and its use in treating cases of coronavirus. Fauci spoke to reporters at the White House.
The Data and Safety Monitoring Board on Monday afternoon contacted me on April 27th, first on Friday the week before, and then again on April 27th. And notified the study team, namely the multiple investigators who are doing the study throughout the world, that the data shows that remdesivir has a clear-cut, significant positive effect in diminishing the time to recovery.
Scientists agree that more research is in order, but Fauci says this is proof that there is a drug with the capacity to block some of the effects of COVID-19. The Trump administration has circulated a draft UN Security Council resolution to extend an arms embargo on Iran. The embargo is set to expire in October. NPR's Michelle Kellerman has more.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says come October, Iran will be able to buy conventional weapons again, and he says the U.S. won't let that happen.
Does anybody think that the nation that today is conducting terror campaigns by Lebanese Hezbollah or Iraqi Shia movements or firing military missiles into the air ought to be permitted to purchase conventional weapon systems in just a few months? I think the world realizes that's a mistake.
Pompeo says it was a failure of the Iran nuclear deal that the arms embargo is ending. One UN diplomat doesn't expect council members to seriously discuss this topic until later in the year. Michelle Kellerman, NPR News, Washington.
News about a potential treatment for symptoms of the coronavirus lifted shares globally. The Dow rose 532 points to 24,633. This is NPR.
This is WAMU Regional News. I'm Jonathan Wilson. Ryan Zimmerman, star of the world champion Washington Nationals, spent about half an hour today not practicing his batting skills, but behind a desk doing an interview with Anthony Fauci, a star in his own right in the fight against the coronavirus. WAMU's Marcus Rosenbaum listened in.
You might wonder why Fauci would take time out from what is obviously a busy schedule these days to speak to a baseball player. Well, one reason is that perhaps Zimmerman would give him a different audience.
My message to my fellow Washingtonians is we're doing a really good job of preventing this from exploding by doing the mitigation of physical separation. And when we return to normal, Brian, we can't just turn the light switch on and go right back.
Fauci said if we do this well, we'll get back to normal sooner rather than later, though things won't really be normal till there's a vaccine. But there was another reason for the interview, too. Fauci is an avid baseball fan and seemed a little starstruck himself.
I love everybody on the Nats.
And he said he hoped to see baseball this year. It might be in stadiums where only every fifth seat is filled, and it might be in empty stadiums.
But I hope that there's some form of baseball this summer, even if it's just TV.
Seeing the great American pastime, Fauci said, is for the country's mental health. For WAMU, I'm Marcus Rosenbaum.
D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser announced an additional $8 million in support of the city's Small Business Recovery Microgrants Program. The Department of Housing and Community Development, as well as Events D.C., chipped in the extra funds. That's on top of $25 million the city allocated to the fund. It's designed to help support businesses struggling with payroll, benefits, and rent during the pandemic. Let's get an update on the weather forecast. That'll come from Washington Post meteorologist Jason Saminow.
The warm weather today was a long time coming, breaking a 15-day streak of below normal temperatures. It won't last, though, as 2 days of cooler, rainier weather are on the way. Clouds increase tonight with showers developing after midnight. Temperatures are still mild, holding near 60. Flood watch is in effect for tomorrow when we expect rain, heavy at times, especially from the morning to mid-afternoon. Widespread rainfall totals of 1 to 2 inches are likely. The rain tapers off by evening, but some more showers are likely to pop up on Friday, much lighter and less widespread than Thursday, though. It turns cooler with highs in the low 60s. The weekend still looks great with sunshine on Saturday and highs near 70 and up to near 75 on Sunday, though some clouds may increase late. For the Capital Weather Gang, I'm Jason Saminow.
Support for NPR comes from this station and from Okta. Okta works to enable any organization to use any technology securely. Learn more at okta.com. From the Joyce Foundation, committed to advancing racial equity and economic mobility for the next generation in the Great Lakes region. Learn more at joycefdn.org. And from the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, helping NPR advance journalistic excellence in the digital age.
From NPR News, this is All Things Considered. I'm Ari Shapiro.
And I'm Mary Louise Kelly. As the coronavirus has infected more than 1 million people here in the U.S., more than 3 million people worldwide, there is still so little known about why children have largely been spared. Still, here in the nation's capital, doctors are warning that kids can get sick, even very sick. Dr. Roberta DiBiase is seeing that up close. She is Division Chief of Infectious Diseases at Children's National Hospital here in Washington, where they have seen more than 180 cases of coronavirus in children. Nearly 50 have been hospitalized.
It is more than we've been expecting. You know, we were able to see that the cases that were happening on the West Coast confirmed what was happening in China, in that there did not seem to be that many severely affected children. But what we have now seemed to have experienced here on the East Coast, in particular here in D.C., is that we are seeing significant numbers of children hospitalized and even in critical care. We have a group that seems to be under a year of age that tend to be the kids that are not as ill, and then this over 15 years of age and above that seem to be at a higher risk of admission, in particular the over 15 that are more likely to be critically ill.
So far, no deaths among children, is that right?
No.
Good. So when these children are coming in, what kind of symptoms are they reporting? What would prompt you to look at a child and think, that kid needs a coronavirus test?
Well, that has actually evolved over the course of this epidemic unfolding. So initially, we all used fever and cough as the main criteria. We now have patients who might have only fever or might only have a respiratory symptom. And we've even had some patients that don't have either one of those but are critically ill for another reason. We've been very fortunate to have an in-house rapid test. We actually recently have been able to start screening all of our patients coming into the hospital because there are children that may be asymptomatically excreting the virus, even if that's not the reason that they're in the hospital.
Are certain children presenting as especially vulnerable? We've been tracking older adults that have underlying health conditions who do appear to be particularly vulnerable, whether they're suffering from diabetes or obesity or heart conditions, other things. Is that also true in children, that those hospitalized might have a higher rate of underlying health conditions?
We have looked at that in our interim analysis. And, you know, what's interesting is about 30% of the kids don't actually have any underlying condition. But, you know, the converse is true. The majority do. So 70% that are hospitalized or in critical care do have some underlying condition. Those have been our children with underlying neurologic disorders like cerebral palsy or microcephaly or other neurologic disorders, as well as our patients who have congenital heart defects or some of our hematologic patients like sickle cell or